Penguin Random House Audio presents Winning the War for Talent. Recruit, retain, and develop the talent your business needs to survive and thrive. By Chris Czarnik. Read for you by David H. Lawrence, the 17th. Introduction. Where did all the people go? And when are they coming back? The shortage of workers in the United States is being treated like some type of surprise. However, anybody paying attention wouldn't be surprised. The shortage has been a mathematical certainty for more than 3 decades. While there have been fluctuations in employment over that period, this silver tsunami was always coming. Most companies and organizations didn't plan for this changing demographic because they chose not to look. In many cases, the focus on the next quarter's profits overshadowed the looming hiring crisis that has been inevitable since the 1960s. The math works like this. The baby boomers. There are somewhere around 74.9 million people in the generation referred to as the baby boomers. This generation consists of people who were born between 1945 and 1964. Much discussion has been made about the economic impact of this generation, as their movement through every phase of life has shaped the economy of this country. Whether it was the sale of diapers, which led to the creation of disposable diapers, thank goodness, the proliferation of automobiles in their teens, the housing boom as new parents, the unprecedented growth of the workforce, including many women joining the workforce for the first time, and even the explosion of the motor home industry as this giant generation headed toward more leisure activities and retirement, whole industries were born to service them. In terms of employees, this group created an almost endless supply of labor. For the better part of the last 40 years, there was no question about having people available to fill positions. If you post the job, they will come, was the battle cry of HR managers. The trouble is that not many organizations planned on what to do when the baby boomers moved into retirement and left the market. Generation X. The generation that came immediately following the baby boomers is referred to as Generation X. This typically refers to those born between 1965 and 1982. For many social and economic reasons, this generation is a good deal smaller than the baby boomers. With approximately 65 million people in Generation X, there were 10 million fewer people born during the same number of years as during the baby boom. Let's just sit with that for a moment. There are 10 million fewer people in Generation X than in the generation immediately preceding it. So, as wonderful as it is that the labor market and number of jobs in America expanded dramatically during the baby boomer years, the sucking sound that you hear every time you post a new job today is the vacuum created by 65 million people trying to fill the jobs of 75 million people. The Millennial Generation. The generation after Generation X is referred to as the Millennials, which describes those born between 1982 and 1996. This generation is actually slightly larger than the baby boomer generation and has approximately 76 million people in it. While this generation has been much maligned in the media, it is actually the most tech-savvy and forward-thinking generation to date. The size of this generation can fill the shoes left open by the baby boomers in time, but they require a much different workplace than their forefathers. The false hope of the Great Recession. If you do the math with the overlay of these generations, you might come up with an interesting question. Shouldn't this shortage have started to show itself a decade ago? Why, yes, it should have. Except for the one event that could have hidden it from those who were actually looking, the Great Recession. The math, when these population differences should have started showing up in the labor market, says that we should have begun to see these changes sometime around 2007, 62 years, the normal retirement age of the oldest baby boomers, after 1945. People who study demographics were already shouting from the rooftops in the early 2000s that the shortage was coming, until the world economy fell off a cliff. The Great Recession artificially decreased the number of jobs needed in America at almost the exact same time the demographers were having U.S. businesses bracing for impact. The shortage never materialized. In fact, due to the massive temporary decrease in the number of jobs in America, it appeared to business leaders that this shortage was really a hoax that was never going to come to fruition. Many of them decried the warnings that were being sent out as false fear. Between 2007 and 2012, not only wasn't there a labor shortage, there were more people looking for work than jobs needing to be filled. Each job opening was met with literally hundreds of applicants. HR managers were blessed with their choice of the best and brightest for each opening. Someone needs to pay the piper. In response to the Great Recession, a college's visionary president hired me to create a program to teach proactive job searching to displaced mid-career professionals who were affected by the economic downturn. Over the next 10 years, I trained more than 2,000 of these people to do a research-based job search I created called Human Search Engine. During this time, I spent every day in the middle of the battle for employment with people who had lost their family-sustaining jobs through no fault of their own. My job, day and night for a decade, was to help those who had lost their jobs and were now in fear of losing their houses. I became one of the nation's experts on the job search, even to the point of my process being adopted by the Employee Assistance Program in Congress. Somewhere around 2012, a funny thing happened. The number of people coming to my classes started to go down. At one point in 2009, I had 2 full classes of 40 desperate job seekers, each hoping for a new opportunity. By 2011, I had to cut the number of classes down to 1, as there just weren't that many people looking anymore. The number of people coming to the class gradually declined over the next 3 years. In 2015, I had the opportunity to become the manager of the Employment Connections department that served our college's graduates in finding employment. By the end of 2015, a shift was absolutely noticeable. No longer were we besieged by job seekers looking for work. Now, almost every call I received was from an employer who was having trouble finding people for their jobs. The same employers who would not get back to applicants a year earlier were now literally receiving no applicants for their job postings. The shortage of workers that had been predicted for so many years was finally a reality. Most employers had no idea how to react to this because they had never experienced it before. That is the purpose of this audiobook, to bring you new ideas of how to recruit, retain, and develop talent in your organization, to show you new ways to engage potential employees and to become an employer of choice, to demonstrate that finding and retaining talent requires many of the same skills and actions that you already do in your organization to market your products and services, to give you a head start over every other employer in your area, to ensure that your organization will have all of the talent it needs to grow and thrive in the next decade and beyond. Chapter 1: Farmers and Hunters of Talent. If you are struggling to find enough people, or the right people, to staff your organization, Your initial response might be to walk down to your HR.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?